Hey, what is going on guys, RvzStealth here, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down some of the most underrated champions, builds, and rune setups for patch 10.2. Alright, so starting things off here with a mid lane pick, it's going to be Sett mid. Now, Sett is primarily played right now as a top laner and a little bit as a jungler, but mid lane Sett surprisingly does have some very good matchups in the current meta, and he can be a great counter pick to just a lot of the things we're seeing right now. He does very well into Yasuo, can do pretty good into Diana, Zed, really well into Katarina as well, especially level 6. If Katarina starts channeling her ultimate, you just get an automatic cancel on that with your ultimate or with your E. He just does really good into most of the assassin picks. He can do good into Akali as well, pretty good into Kassadin. So I think Sett right now probably one of the most underrated mid lane champions in the game. He's probably going to remain pretty niche for the next couple of patches here, but if he is open, if you do want to play him mid and you can play him into those matchups that I just talked about, you can have some great success on him. For your build on the Sett mid, you're going to want to go for a Tiamat Rush into Trinity Force, and then for your second completed item, if they have a lot of burst on their team, you can go for Sterix. If not, then you can finish off your Titanic Hydra. By going for that Tiamat Rush though, you just have so much ability to just perma-shove a wave with Sett. With your Tiamat AoE damage, with your E and your W AoE damage, you have the ability to just almost instantly clear out a wave, so it allows you to get priority in a lot of matchups and be able to roam really well. So for the second pick, it's going to be a very unconventional one down in the bot lane, played in the carry role, and it's Thalia. So Thalia as the AP carry down in the bot lane is something that is really sleeper for the meta we're in right now, because if you take a look at who's being played a lot in the support role for this patch, you still have Nautilus at a 15% pick rate right now. He's being played a ton. You got Leona with a 16% pick rate, Thresh with a 24% pick rate. So all of these aggressive supports being played right now are so good paired up with Thalia, because if you could just hit a hook, hit a stun with Leona in the laning phase, lock somebody down for an extended duration, it allows Thalia to get a full burst combo off on the opponent, and you just have so much one shot and so much kill pressure in the laning phase. So this is going to work a lot better if you can play with a duo partner down in the bot lane playing that aggressive support, and it's not really going to be the greatest for you if you're blind picking it, because if your support ends up playing something that's a lot less aggressive in the laning phase, something like a Lulu or a Soraka who doesn't really provide you with any hard crowd control to work off of your full combo, then it's going to be a bit more difficult for you to get kills and succeed in the laning phase. But if you can pair her up with that aggressive support, then you can just completely stomp games on this pick. Now for your rune page on the Thalia bot, most players are preferring the Dark Harvest right now, but that doesn't mean Electrocute isn't a good choice either. I think that if you're confident you can really snowball in the early game with this Thalia bot pick, then take the Dark Harvest, because if you're going to get a ton of stacks, you might as well take that. But if you feel like you're not going to be able to get a ton of early kills, or if you're just not super confident yet on your Thalia bot lane, then running the Electrocute is overall going to give you more straight up burst damage when you are trying to chunk out a target. And then segueing off of that Thalia carry pick, a really good champion paired up with the Thalia that's very underrated at the moment is the Pantheon Support. So this is like your classic, very easy to execute kill lane that you can play with Thalia. You don't see this very often in solo queue, but it's something that is just so devastating, and it's something that is very easy to execute. Like, it's pretty foolproof for the most part. If Pantheon just jumps in with his W, lines up a very free W for Thalia, and you just get a full burst combo off. So especially if the enemy does not have flash throughout the laning phase, like if you can play Pantheon with that Thalia, you're just gonna get yourself a ton of free kills. And then even without being paired up with Thalia, I still think Pantheon Support is a very underrated champion. He's a very good roaming support champion. He's very easy to play. He's got the point and click lockdown with his W there. So if you can pair him up with a good aggressive AD carry in the laning phase, you can get a lot of kills with the pick. He has the ability to jump right in there, instantly proc the press the attack if he does have his full stacks on his passive there, so you get a lot of burst damage off pretty quickly with the Pantheon. And then with your E, you have the ability to very easily kite back and just not really take any damage when you are going for trades. So you have the potential to really out trade the opponents in the laning phase super well, and I just think he's a great pick, especially if you can play him into other melee supports. If you can play him into something like a Leona or a Nautilus, then you do have the ability to just very easily lock those champions down if they're trying to dive onto your AD carry. For example, if a Leona is trying to like E onto your AD carry, you just stun her, lock her in place, and she's not really going to be able to get in range to lock down your carries. And then a jungle pick that's really on the rise for 10.2 is Trundle Jungle. Trundle got 2 different direct buffs in this patch, one to his W's movement speed and the other to his E's slow. That's going to help him out in so many different situations. It's going to help out his ability to gank in the early game. Just that added movement speed and the added slow on his E there will allow him to close the gap a lot better and just stick onto his target. If you find yourself getting ahead in the early game with Trundle as well, if you're able to get a couple early kills, it's very difficult for the enemy to even come in range of you, because if they come in range of you and you hit a slow with your E, you got the movement speed from your W, you're not gonna be able to get away from this champion. He's just gonna stick onto you forever, and it's gonna be very difficult for you to play into a Trundle that gets ahead of you in the early game. His matchups for the meta are also pretty good for 10.2. He does pretty good into Lee Sin. He's always been a pretty good pick into the Elise. He can do pretty solid into the Olaf pick as well. The Olaf ultimate gonna be pretty useless up against a Trundle pillar if you can just block off an area. Also, Olaf is gonna gain bonus armor and magic resist from his ultimate if his ultimate is inactive. So if you're just fighting an Olaf and he doesn't have ult, you're gonna be able to steal those resists with your ultimate. You're gonna be super tanky, so you're gonna be able to win the 1v1s against Olaf with your ultimate pretty much every single time. If you run the Conquer on the Trundle Jungle as well, you just have the ability to get so much extra damage. You got the extra damage coming out of Conquer, you got the extra AD coming out of your Q as well, and then combine that with like the amount of attack speed that you have coming out of your W, you're just gonna be able to like smack the opponent to death in the early game with Trundle. And a lot of players, especially in the lower elos, are really gonna underestimate Trundle's ability to duel throughout the early levels. Now for, in my opinion, the most underrated top laner for 10.2, and something we've seen in previous metas, but that's really flying under the radar at the moment, is the Hecarim top. So Hecarim top just has a ton of kill pressure throughout the laning phase. You're going to want to run the Ignite and Teleport as your summoner spells on this champion. You're going to take the Conquer, you're going to go for a Corrupting Potion start, you're also going to take Biscuits and Time Warp Tonic, so you're just going for a really heavy early game focus setup here on this Hecarim top. And if you go for that setup, you just have a surprising amount of kill pressure and burst damage throughout the early game. So very few champions in the meta right now can really look to compete with Hecarim's early dueling potential. You're going to stack the Conqueror up extremely quickly because of all your consistent damage. You're going to have a lot of sustain with the Hecarim top as well, coming out of your Corrupting Potion, your Time Warp, your Biscuits, along with your W healing. So the dueling potential from this champion is very underrated, and he just does so well into the meta top lane picks. He performs extremely good against Fiora right now. He can do pretty good into Ornn, Renekton, Jax. He's a great pick into Sett and Akali as well. So into the things that are being played the most for 10.2 in the top lane, Hecarim is an extremely good pick. The only champions he tends to struggle against right now up in the top lane is the Darius pick there. So Darius, very strong early game. He's going to be able to beat most champions out in the 1v1 throughout the laning phase. So just look to ban out the Darius there if you are playing the Hecarim top. The Vladimir as well can do pretty good into him because it's going to be more difficult for you to look to just burst him out in the laning phase because of his sustain and his ability to just pull away from you if he does get in danger. The Kled can also do pretty good into Hecarim because he can just take away from like all your healing from your Corrupting Potion along with your Conquer if he just hits his Q on you, because the Q does give the healing debuff. So those three matchups are a little bit more difficult for Hecarim, but into most of the meta things right now, he does do very well. Another pick that's on the rise for 10.2 after the buffs he did receive is Zigz. Now this is more so for Zigz down in the bot lane. I think Zigz mid is a little bit underrated as well right now for this patch, but bot lane Zigz is definitely a lot more underrated because if you take a look at the meta going around in the AD carry role right now, you have a lot of immobile AD carries. I think this is probably the most amount of immobile AD carries we've ever had in an AD carry meta. You have Misfortune being played a lot right now. You got Jhin, you got Kai'Sa, Senna, Aphelios, like the list just goes on and on. All of those champions are being played so much in the meta at the moment, and that's just so good for Zigz because any champions that don't have gap closers that can easily dodge out on his abilities, he's gonna have a very good time into. The best bans for Zigz bot at the moment would definitely be either Caitlyn or Lucian. Two champions that do have gap closers can very easily dodge out like on his full combo, on his ultimate as well. So just look to ban out one of those two champions if you're playing this pick, and if you can get a good matchup, if you can play against any AD carry who does not have a gap closer, and especially if you're paired up with a good aggressive support, then you're just gonna have a very good time in the laning phase. A Nautilus hook into a Zigz full combo at level 6 is a guaranteed kill, like no questions about it. Same thing playing with like a Leona ultimate into a Zigz full combo at level 6, that's a guaranteed kill there. So you just have a lot of kill threat throughout the early game on this champion. Alright, so for the next pick here, finally players are starting to pick up on this champion and they're actually playing them in solo queue and in the pro scene, but he's still pretty underrated, and it's the Rumble mid. So Rumble mid in LPL, which is the Chinese pro scene, has a 100% pick ban rate in the mid lane in the last patch or whatever patch they're playing on in the LPL at the moment. He's got a 100% pick ban rate, so people are finally realizing like Rumble mid is such a strong pick, really good laning phase, has great snowball potential throughout the early to mid game, is great in the meta we're in at the moment because he does have some of the best early skirmish, like a Rumble ultimate at those dragon fights or like at a scuttle fight, at an early Rift Herald fight. It's just so influential, and if you can just really get used to using the ultimate on Rumble, if you can hit those consistently, get some good multi-man ultimates off with Rumble in those early skirmishes, you're just gonna be able to solo carry fights on the pick. And then lastly, to round out the video, very underrated support pick, Maokai. So Maokai is a great pick right now, really into any aggressive support. If you see a Leona, a Nautilus, a Blitz, a Thresh, Maokai right now, if you want to main this champion, it's a very good time to do so, because into any of those champions, if they try to jump on you or your AD carry, you just instantly root them with your W, you knock them away with your Q, you got really good peel potential in your kit with Maokai. You're gonna instantly get the aftershock proc there with your W or your Q as well, so you're really tanky in fights throughout the laning phase. Your lockdown with this champion is insanely good, so you have a lot of kill pressure yourself in lane with this pick too. If you can pair him up with any aggressive AD carry and you can just like hit a root on the opponent, use your Q to knock them back, they're gonna be CC'd for a very long duration, especially once you hit the level 6 there. If you pair the Maokai up with a Misfortune, like the enemies are just gonna die. There's no counterplay to it really. You just use your W, use your ultimate, use your Q, Misfortune gets a fully channeled ultimate off, and you just watch the enemies melt. Alright, so that is going to be it, guys. That's going to round out the video. Those are a bunch of different champions right now that are very underrated for 10.2. So if you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.